Okay, the Rebbe's Maamar of Ledodi in Maamar Meluket Chelik Dalid. We're on page Shin Samach Dalid. Okay, so the Rebbe's elaborating on the Rebbe's Maamar, and he says Ledodi is Daveda Momato Lamaila. Doidi Li is Daveda Momailo Lamato. So the question is, that's still part of all of Elul. Okay, so he says that especially to understand this, the Rebbe explains, and so he says, the Rebbe alludes to a question: if Vav Lamed is, Doidi Li, Vedodi Li, so that's not Elul, that's Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. So the Rebbe explains. So the Rebbe says in the Maamar, how does he explain this? That Elul is the revelation of Gimel Midas Harachman, and therefore it's not a revelation that stimulates the person. It only gives him the koyach, the ability to be able to come close to the king. But he's not ma'ored the king. So he explains that when the king comes into the field, that's the gila of Yud Gimel Midas Harachman. Okay, in fact, Al Rebbe in the Maamar also asks another interesting question. Al Rebbe starts off the Maamar in L'Kutei Torah by asking, if Elul is the time of Yud Gimel Midas Harachman, why isn't it a Yom Tov? What's a Yom Tov? Yom Tov means a revelation of godliness, more than regular. So if the whole month of Elul Yud Gimel Midas Harachman, the whole month of Elul should be a Yom Tov. That's what Al Rebbe asks here. But here the Rebbe is not talking about that. Okay, so he says, it's only Doidi Li is a revelation that stimulates the person. But Doidi Li of Elul is only giving the koyach to be able to do it. So he explains that similar to the concept of Melech Hasoda, whoever wants can go visit the king. The king himself is not, when the king comes into the field, it's not inspiring them with awe and fear. When the king is in the palace with the royalty, royal garments, and the whole spiel, so to speak, so then he awakens awe and fear from the people. The king is in the field, all he's doing is giving the people the ability to go out and meet the king, but he's not stimulating them. Okay, that's what we're up to. So he says now in Dalid, so what's the Alter Rebbe explaining in the Mashal? That the time of Elul is a revelation of Yud Gimel Midas Harachman. So therefore the king is going out to the field, and whoever wants could come see him. Right? That's the point. So he said, but the Alter Rebbe adds details in that thing. He said, in order to explain that the Gila of Elul and is seen as Kayach, and they're giving the ability for the Jew through this revelation, is l'chol echad ve'echad, is to every single Jew, right? That's what he says. Every single Jew, even if you're in Midbar, can come and see the king. L'chayda, that's only Rak Sham Melech Besada, is only relevant to the point that when the king is in the field, Rishoyim v'yechelim kol mi shereitz l'hakol panav, whoever wants can come meet the king. But the Alter Rebbe in the Mashal adds to it, and he said, "V'lama ma'isif." Why does the Alter Rebbe add in the Mashal? Shamelech mekabel es kulam, that the king receives everybody, b'sever panim yafos, with good countenance, meaning smiling, u'mar panim seicha k'sul kulam, and he smiles at everybody. The whole point of the Mashal is to explain that when the king comes into the field, everybody can go meet him. So why is it relevant that the king receives everybody smiling, good countenance? That's not relevant to the whole Mashal what the Alter Rebbe wants to bring out. Befrat zeh shemelech mekabel es kulam. B'sev panim yafis u'mar panim seicha k'sluk u'amshoch v'agilui momayla la'achri aved. It contradicts the Mashal, because the king comes into the field. That means he's giving the koyach for everybody to come and do it, to come see the king. When the king smiles at them, so what's the aved of the Jew? Coming to see the king. That's the aved of the Jew. Now when the king is smiling at them, that's a gilui after the aved. The whole mashal is that the king in the field means it stimulates the aved of the Jew. It gives him the koyach to do it. But it's not a revelation that inspires, like Rosh Hashanah and Kippur is. But the whole mashal that the Alter Rebbe brings out, that the king smiles and looks at them with a good countenance and everything, that l'chayra, it contradicts the whole point of Elul. The whole point of Elul is he doesn't reveal himself. It's ani Ledodi. He just gives them the koyach to be able to come to see the king. And then he says in the mashal that the king is smiling at everybody. That's a revelation post-Avodah. That's the l'chayra Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. The whole revelation after the Aved of Vedodi is a Sarisi made tshuva, not in the month of Elul. The marshal, the Malach Basadi, yet the marshal of the king in the field is Biur ala Gilui de Elul, which is in the scene as Kayach giving this ability lifnei Aveda, before the Aveda. So the Alter Rebbe is asking, not only it's not relevant, it actually contradicts the whole purpose of the marshal, that the king is coming to the field just to stimulate you, give the Kayach to do it. And then he says, when you come in the field in Elul, he's smiling at you. That's the Gilui Momayla. Also, we need to understand two inyanim. The Alter Rebbe says like this. Number one, Shemekablam b'sefer panim, sefer panim yafis. The Alter Rebbe says like this. He receives them with good countenance, and then he says the second thing. Then he smiles at them. He says two things. First, the king receives them. That means the king is just receiving them, not megala, not gilui. And then he says the king is revealing a smile to them. What's these two inyanim? When he says b'sefer panim yafis. Panim yafis means good countenance. But b'negel lemada, when it shows what he shows the level of seicha case, that he's laughing. So the whole mashal is really contradicting itself. Okay, so he said, the Yishleimad, it's remarkable the way the Alter Rebbe says the simple mashal, and the Rebbe is ripping it apart from every word of the mashal. The Rebbe is ripping it apart. Yishleimad beheged them, to understand this, beheged them by first introducing another a concept. Shachidish begilu yugimel midas rachman be'elu. L'gabi gilui b'Rosh Hashanah v'Yom Kippur b'shnei inyanim. He says Elul is a revelation Yigam Midas Rachman, which is l'chayra Gilui Momayla. Then there's the Gilui Momayla of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippurim. What's the difference between this and that? Between the Gilui of Elul, Yigam Midas Rachman, and the Gilui of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, which is also Gilui Momayla, but it's different. He says, is b'shnei inyanim, two differences. Number one, like this. Because in order to get and receive Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, why the Aveda Nailas is to an ultimate Aveda of Muvcharin Shabam Yechidus Gula. He said like this. In order to receive the king in the palace, which he said is Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, and the king goes home, and then people come, he takes the people with him. But who sees the king in the palace? Yechidus Gula, unique individuals, which means it's a very lofty avodah that's not shaykh to everybody. It's just shaykh to Yechidus Gula. Yet, yet to get the avodah of Elul, all you have to do is Kabbalah's Pri Melech. You don't have to be lofty. You can be in the midbar. You just go out to meet him. In other words, the Gilui of Elul, Yud Gimel Midas Rachmim, is accomplished by a very low level of just going to meet the king. The Gilui of Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, when the king is Behicholai, then you need to be Yechidus Gula. Not everybody can go meet the king. In other words, you need to be a lofty level of Aveda. Okay. But Nimshol, what is the Nimshol? Is aided as Kabbalah, so Malchus Shemayim. What's in the Nimshol of Elul? You come to meet the king. Yeah? What does that mean, meet the king? In Aveda. It means accepting the yoke of the king. That's what it means, going out to meet the king. That's the mashal. But in other words, the king comes out, you have the koyach now to receive me. What is the concept of receiving the king? O Malchus Shemayim, the acceptance of the yoke. That's one Indian.
What is that?
Huh?
How does that look practically in Elul over the whole year?
It's easier to accept the yoke of the king in Elul, because normally when you have one of shaykhs to a king during the year, you have to be able to go into the palace. To go to the palace, they don't let anybody in. Yichid is gula only. But the king is in the field. That means in the time of Elul, it's easier to accept the yoke of the king, because the king's accessible. All you have to do is go out there. Like the Rambam says in Ochos Tshuva, that even though Tshuva is acceptable and good a whole year, but it's easier and it's more opportune time in Aser Simei Tshuva. That's why the pasuk says, "Dirsha Hashem b'Himatzai Karu b'Yosef." Seek out someone when he's found. B'Yosef, seek him out when he's close. When is that? The Gemara says, "Aser Simei Tshuva." Ela Sari Yom Shbein Sheni Yom Kippurim. Elul is a time, even though a whole year you can have Kabbalah so Malchus Shemayim, but in the month of Elul, especially, Hashem is giving us the koyach. He's not stimulating. He's giving us the koyach to do it because I'm accessible. Here I am.
And He gave it to us on Passover. The koyach for that.
The koyach for that is even the koyach of tshuva comes from this. Yeah.
The teshuva of a 95-year-old man is equal to a teshuva of a 20-year-old man.
No comprendo.
At the beginning of his life, he makes teshuva.
No.
Somebody who is 120 years old makes teshuva.
He's too weak to sin, you mean?
No, but the 90 years old has accumulated a lot of things to do teshuva. Whereas there's not much to do teshuva in a young person. He hasn't done too many transgressions to ask for teshuva.
An old man has no koyach to sin. That's why, by the way, the Rambam says, the Rambam says in Hilchos Tshuva, that the ultimate tshuva is same time, same station, with the same koyach. Okay? So, if an older person doesn't sin, and he says, okay, I'm going to do tshuva, I'm not going to do the Saveda, it's not the same level as tshuva, a young person, because the old person has no koyach to sin. Okay? But the younger person has the koyach to sin, and if he at that younger age stops, it's a much greater level of tshuva.
Yeah,
but that doesn't mean 95 you should be a mechad of name Yisosach.
But an older person has a lot of accumulated sins for him to ask for teshuva.
Some people are very in 20 years, 25 years, can sin more than a 90-year-old guy throughout his whole life.
I subscribe to that.
Huh?
I subscribe.
Okay. And you're not even 90.
You don't have power to
Right. So then the tshuva is not the same level of tshuva if he would have done it when he was young. Right? No? That Rambam says in Ochos Tshuva. Okay. So he says, one difference between Yud Gimel Serachma and Yom Kippurim, because the Avodah of Yom Kippurim, the Gilui Milmaila is Yechidus Gula. And Elul, everybody could do it. V'eid Chidish Ba'Gilui de Elul. And the second Chidish, so this is a Maila of Elul over Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. One Maila is everybody could do it. You don't have to be a lofty person. V'eid Chidish Shagilui Gam Le'elu Animtzoim B'Midbar. Even to those people that do it in the level of Midbar, of Lu'umazeh. Now, like we learned yesterday, Midbar, there's Ir, Sada, and Midbar. Okay, Ir is civilized. Sada field is not civilized, but things grow. Midbar is nothing. Okay? So Midbar Ruchnius represents a person who is extremely far from Yiddishkeit. No cultivation, no civilization, no nothing. K'muv gam mizeh she'ikar ha'gilui d'Yud Gimel Midas Rachim sheba Elul, the primary gilui of Yud Gimel Midas Rachim and Elul is in the scene as koyach ala tshuva, to do tshuva. Right? I think he said acceptance, malchus shamayim, acceptance the yoke of Hashem, that is tshuva, returning to Hashem. The tshuva kipshutei, tshuva simply is al inyan bilti ritzuyim for Avedas. Yes, there's a level of tshuva that even Mashiach is going to get tzaddikim to do tshuva. Tshuva law is not for Avedas. But the simple level of tshuva is, yes, somebody with tshuva, I sinned, I'm going to do tshuva. And the primary level of tshuva comes from prikas el, meaning throwing off the yoke. So what's tshuva? Accepting the yoke. The gilui of Elul is gam le'ele shemetachlis harichuk. Not only are they not close, but they're very far. You know, there's two levels. You cannot be close, but you're not that far. But you could be, in simple English, I don't have a close friend, but he's still a friend. Then I can have an enemy. It's not stam, not close. You're far. Masha calls about my Meshagilu the Elo Besada. V'lei b'midbar, but l'chayr, if so, why doesn't Alter Rebbe in the Maamar use the word midbar? Why they should say forget it. It's Elul is so great, even midbar could do tshuva. Why doesn't he say it? Ki ha'gilui de Yud Gimel Midas Rachmim, because the gilui of Midas Yud Gimel Midas Rachmim is not in the midbar. In the midbar itself, the inyanim shem heipach ratzon Hashem, because midbar, which represents evil, can't have a gilui of Yud Gimel Midas Rachmim. What is the gilui? El b'Yisrael am nimtzoim b'midbar. The Nesinas Koyach of Elul, the Alter Rebbe in the Maamar says, Yud Gimel Midas Rachmim cannot be revealed in midbar. What in Sadeh could be revealed, because Sadeh things grow. But the Alter Rebbe is saying, where is the Yud Gimel Midas Rachmim revealed? For the Jew that's in the midbar. Because the Jew is alam every time a keli for elukus, even when he's in midbar, because he has a neshama, and the Jew is always connected. He says because, and therefore the Alter Rebbe doesn't say that the melech comes to the midbar, because that would imply Yud Gimel Midas Rachmim comes into the midbar. Melech is the Yud Gimel Midas Rachmim. Sada is a level of evil, of not Kedusha. He says, Melech can come to the midbar.
Hashem came to the midbar to give the Torah.
Huh?
Hashem gave the Torah in the midbar.
That's to show that even midbar you can have. It's not that the Hashem can't. Matan Torah was a level of Elokus that connected Gashmis and Ruchnius. That means a level above both. In that level, which is above Teiv and Ra, Hashem could come into a midbar. Yud Gimel Midas Rachmim is not the essence of Hashem. That's above both. Yud Gimel Midas Rachmim is a gilui of Kedusha. Gilui of Kedusha can come to midbar. Essence of Hashem could come even into a midbar, because it's above the Bayim, midbar, saw the ear, it's all the same thing. What?
So the program is everybody. Even
Elul, the program is everybody.
for the midbar, even for the midbar,
Even for the Jew in the midbar.
especially for them.
Yeah.
Well, Hashem came to the midbar for the Jew to give the Matan Torah, or because it was fire level that came down? Or both?
Anechi.
Anochi came.
V'ikar HaTshuva is al prikasel. The mizam moving shut. No, I'm sorry, I went backwards. And the gilui in not in the midbar, in the Jew that's in the midbar, is nesinas koyach to giving not a revelation. It's giving you the ability, guys. I'm here. Now awaken yourself to come see me. So he says these are the two differences between the Yud Gimel Mizrachim of Elul and Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Number one, Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur Gilui is a Yechidus Gula. That's to be a lofty Aveda. Elul is everywhere, everyone. Right? And the second thing is that the Gilui of Yud Gimel Mizrachim comes even into the level of a Jew that's in the Midbar. Says the second is even to Jews that are in the, not in the Midbar itself, but the Jew that's in the Midbar.
Yesterday we learned, unless you go to Elul,
Right.
you won't come to the
ultimate Gilui, correct. To reach the level of Yechidus Gula, they have to first start off with Kabbalah Malchus Shemayim. You can't get an Aved Yechidus Gula before the basics. This that it says in the Maamar, the king receives everybody b'sefer bonim. Hakavana b'zeh shematgek es kulam. What does the Rebbe say in the Mashal? The king is mekabel kulam, everybody, not only Yechidus Gula, everybody. Shagam elu shemrakreitzim lekabel pnei hamelech. Even those that only, I would love to go see the king, but they're still shivuyim b'dei yitzram. They're still in captivity in the Yetzer Hara. In other words, in practical language, you can have a person who says, yeah, I would like to become a little bit more religious, but my Yetzer Hara is not letting me. Even that Jew, the king in Elul is being revealing to. Even a Jew that he says like this, Rakreitzim, but shvuyim b'dei yitzram, v'gam k'shemeseret etzim notzim lasis tshuva. Even when they want to do tshuva, Ein Zababa Poel doesn't come into reality. In other words, they want to be good, they're still not good. And even to those people, the king is revealing himself in Elul. Even those people that their only desire is to want to go see the king, but it's not actually happening because they're still in captivity by the Yetzer Hara. 1 second. That awakens by them Ratzon Chazik V'Takif Lahagbos Pnei HaMelech, and through Ratzin through this Ratzin to meet the king, him is Gabrim Al Menias V'Yikuvim, the king's coming into the field allows them to overcome their captivity in the hands of the Yetzer Hara and to bring into fruition, into action, their desire to go meet the king. What's your problem? I know. I mean, this here, about here.
And then the people of the king in the 10 day, the king, the same king that is in Elul is Rosh Hashanah, before Rosh Hashanah.
A king is a king.
Okay, so here it says it's different. The Gilu is different.
The Gilu is different. The king is not different.
King is the same.
The Gilu of the king in the field is not in royalty, in not royal garments, not in the awe and of the throne, the palace.
Accessible.
That's all Gilui. Accessibility is Gilui. The essence, the king is the same king in Elul and Tishrei and Cheshvan and Kislev Tevishvat. The essence is still there. A Jew that's in Midbar is still connected to the essence.
So the effect, if it's accessible,
We said many times, in the Kiruv movement that Chabad started before anybody dreamt about it, is the expression, I'm doing Kiruv Rechokim. But that's a very common expression. Kiruv rechokim. Okay? That means I'm bringing close to people that are far. The Rebbe was adamantly against that term, because the Rebbe says no Jew is far. Every Jew is close, you have to bring them closer. There's no such thing as a far Jew. There are many groups in authentic, officially from Yiddishkeit, that think if a Jew is not Shemesh Shabbos and he's not Jewish. In their opinion, he's not Jewish. They wouldn't count him for a minyan. They wouldn't look at him. They would spit at him. They would throw stones at him. They would do whatever. Yeah?
Some circles, if you don't have a beard, they won't even talk to you.
That's why they don't talk to women, because they don't have beards. So, but not only, the reality is that they're as Jewish, not one drop less Jewish than those guys with the works. By other groups, I'm not mentioning any names, the dress is all that matters.
What?
The dress. The way you dress, that's all that matters. You could be a lowlife, as long as you wear streimel and white socks and the bekish and all that, you're fine. I mean, I'm not joking. This their shita. That's their opinion. What?
The dress code. Women are not supposed to wear even skirt, long skirt, if it's denim, in Chabad. So Chabad is also very pedantic about this.
For themselves. Does that mean that a person who doesn't dress tznius is not Jewish? Any less Jewish? That's what I'm talking about. The dress doesn't make you. You could take, I told you there was a time in Crown Heights that the Goyim were starting up with the Jews. It was in Williamsburg, Borough Park, all over the place. So what did they do? They took these Italian Goyim. You know, Italians have a similarity in look to Jews. They took these Italian big guys, Goyim, policemen. They put them on streimlich, they made the fake beards, they wore the bekish, and they would roam the streets on Shabbos and Yom Tov. And the Goyim would start up with them. But they were Goyish cops. They would arrest them. And then eventually they got scared of doing it because they didn't know who was a real Jew. So you can have a Goy that looks like a real Jew. So in the outer appearance, what does the pasuk say? Al tabet el mareo. Don't look at the external appearance of the Jew. By the way, it doesn't only mean physical. Don't look at the external, that he's not religious or that, because every Jew is chelak elokam imal.